Okay, how many of you guys have ever heard of Marshall Mathers?
Not me. Who is he?
Okay, well, inform me about him. Actually, for some of you young folks, you guys probably heard of Marshall Mathers, huh? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marshall had a hard life growing up, which is what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about how he became famous and all the troubles he had to go through to get there. Marshall grew up not having a father figure, which made his early life really hard. So Marshall Bruce Mathers III, who was born on October 17th, 1972, Deborah Mathers, who was only 15 years old at the time, which seems very young. When Marshall was only 18 months old, his father abandoned his family. Marshall tried getting a hold of his father several times during his childhood, but he could never hear back from him. As a young boy, he had to move around the state of Missouri because his mother had a hard time keeping a job. Moving so much forced Marshall to have to switch to schools 3 or 4 times a year, which made it really hard on him. Since he never stayed in the same town for too long, he didn't have many friends. He was always considered the outcast at many schools he attended. He was always getting beat up, whether it was in the bathrooms, hallways, or getting shoved into lockers. His teenage years, Marshall started getting a big interest into rap music. After failing the 9th grade 3 times, Marshall eventually dropped out because he couldn't handle the pressure anymore. Although he was not the best student, he was still good with words and even studied the dictionary sometimes. He discovered that a good way to use his words and anger as a young teenager was by rapping. He started to join rap battles where he didn't fit in. At times, most rappers were African Americans, but Marshall didn't care. He had pale white skin and blue eyes, which made him a big outcast in downtown Detroit, where he did most of his battles. Marshall got his name from doing these underground battles, and they gave him the name Eminem. So Eminem, at the time, was trying to hold a job and trying to continue to do rap battles, but what he really wanted to do most was to get a record contract. Eminem started dating a school friend named Kim Scott. He soon ended up having a kid with her named Haley Jade. Now having to support a family, Eminem released his first album, Infinite, but his strong verbalism and witty storytelling failed to make a profit. A year later, Eminem tried again with the record called the Slim Shady LP Demo, which got the attention of the famous rapper Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre was part of Eminem's favorite groups, NWA, so when Dr. Dre traveled to Detroit to meet Eminem, he was very happy. Dr. Dre watched Eminem perform in a rap battle and was very impressed with it. He signed Eminem to Interscope Records, to that label on the spot. In 1999, Eminem released his album Slim Shady LP. It was an instant hit and ended up selling over 3 million copies. This album had a mixture of childness and violence that people seemed to love, including me. Kim and Marshall got married after his first album, which was a hit. That was not only his only album. In fact, he had plenty more to come out. In 2000, Eminem released his album Marshall Mathers LP. It showed off Eminem's rap talents. From funny to sad, from violent to self-critical, he ended up selling over 19 million copies and won the Grammy for Best Rap Album and received nomination for Album of the Year. However, this album got lots of criticism. Critics say that it was violent, homophobic, and it glorified drugs, and it had very strong language. Eminem pushed through all that criticism and even did a duet with Elton John to show that he was not racist against the gay community. Other albums that Eminem did well in the next few years were Devil's Night, The Eminem Show, and Encore. Eminem started having personal problems and recorded very little music for the next few years. In 2000, Eminem and Kim got divorced, but maintained on and off relationship for many years. In 2006, they decided to get remarried, but ended up in a divorce a few months later. The divorce caused a highly public and ugly custody battle over the daughter, Haley. By December 2007, Eminem became an alcoholic and highly addicted to painkillers and sleeping pills because of this. He overdosed one night and nearly died. And if he had gone to the hospital 2 hours later, he would have taken his last breath. Early in 2008, however, Eminem managed to kick his addiction to the side and started recording music again. In 2009, Eminem finally came out with another album called Relapse, which was his first record in almost 5 years. 1 year later, he came out with another album called Recovery, which is his first album that he was basically sober in, and he didn't talk about violence and drugs, but more about his life and the road to recovery. Recently, Eminem has said, I started learning how not to be so angry at most things, learning how to count my freaking blessings instead. By doing that, I've become a happier person instead of all this loathing. I was done for a while. The music, I would say it's gotten happier, but it's definitely more upbeat. I feel like myself again. So as you can see, Marshall Mathers, aka Eminem, had a hard life growing up. He moved from town to town with his alcoholic mother and had no father figure, but he managed to turn it all around and now lives a happy life. That's it.